And let's start with a session hosted and supported by Vanakkam Germany. Priya and Balaji unfortunately cannot make it today, but Sebastian and me will do our best to guide you through on how to avail, which kind of subsidies there are while buying a house here in Germany. How you can avail them, what you need to do, how much you can avail, what's the benefits, and in the end we'll have a Q&A session as well. Right, so we'll not go into a very long agenda. We only have 4 points which we're going to cover today. We're going to briefly discuss on who we are, who you're speaking to, or in this case, who you're listening to and who you're watching. We'll then have a one-slide overview of which subsidies are available. And it's going to be a vast slide, very hectic one. And then we'll go into details into 5 most commonly used subsidies here in Germany. Obviously, we'll not be able to cover every subsidy there is. There are just too many of them. Hence, we just picked out 5 which are the most common ones and which we see our clients taking and which we are also advising our clients to take. And then, as mentioned, we'll also have a Q&A session in the end. So please hold back on your questions, type them into the chat so that we can go through them one by one and also see which ones we can answer at the same time. All right, perhaps your questions already will be answered during the session, so just use the chat function, which is there in MS Teams.
Yeah, good evening from my end. Sebastian is my name. I'm 41 years of age, born and brought up in Germany. With 23 years of experience in the real estate industry, apprentice banker, studied real estate, and worked as a real estate agent for more than 10 years. So I sold more than 450 properties, and I'm living near Cologne in my own house, and I have several properties as a landlord.
My name is Ajay. I'm 45 years young. I need to change that word. Born and brought up here in Germany. My mother tongue is German. I lived in India for 5 years, between the age of 10 and 15. My family lives in Delhi. I'm married, got 2 kids. Most of us think of kids, the little ones strolling around. That's not the case anymore. My son is 17 and my daughter is 21. I live near Cologne in a wonderful town called Leverkusen, and I own multiple houses and apartments as investments, and I also own the house I live in. I'm a certified home loan consultant, just like Sebastian is.
Okay, so let's start with a quick overview. You don't need to be scared about that overview. We will not dive super deep into, because you see there are a lot of subsidies. Yeah, so let's say you want to build a property, you want to buy a property, you want to modernize on the energy efficiency. Or at least if you want to add some security units into it or something else, yeah, it feels like everything you can get a subsidy, yeah. And you see on that sheet there are more than 10 or 15 different programs, and that's just KfW, and not all programs from KfW as well. And even for the bankers who do that day in, day out, yeah, it's not super easy to figure it out. We do it day in, day out, and for our customers, we search for the fitting subsidies available. So that's not all. Today we will have an eye on some very common ones from the KfW and other ones as well. So I guess we start with the first one, which is the most common one. It's the KfW 124 program. KfW is a bank which is, let's say, owned by the government, founded and owned by the government, and they give money for a lower interest rate in most cases. Yeah? Sometimes you have a cashback, but here on that program, you can go with if you buy a property for own use. So the 124 program from KfW is the most common used, I would like to say. And I guess you are eligible, not I guess, I know that you are eligible if you buy for your own use. And the subsidy is that you get a decreased interest rate, which is maybe lower, maybe higher than the interest rate you get from the bank. But the program is that they draft the money from the market and give it further to you without having a profit. Yeah, that's the subsidy they give. In that program, you will see the other programs are quite different. And the maximum amount you can take is 100,000 euros. And it's used a lot of times because from some banks, it's counted like equity you push in. And especially in combination with the main loan, you can have wonderful interest rates.
Then we'll come to the most important ones for the German government. If you've been following news a couple of last months or years, the current government wants us to increase the energy efficiency due to various reasons. And obviously this is also in your own favor because then you can decrease your heating or energy cost in total. Hence, there are a lot of programs available, a lot of subsidies available to increase energy efficiency and decrease the cost associated, decrease the use of energy in the first place. Now, eligibility, we'll see the next 3 slides are different from subsidy to subsidy. Some are only for self-use, some are for rented, some are for both. The different subsidies available, some are cashback, some are reduced interest rates, and the amount also differs from program to program. Now, we'll have 3 different slides, and I'm not gonna go into detail in each and every measure which we can get a subsidy for. What I want you to take away from these next 3 slides is that almost any measure which you have to reduce your energy consumption in your house or flat is subsidized some way or the other. Either through KfW, the government's bank, which Sebastian already spoke about, or through BAFA, which is a separate entity, also a governmental body, or by the tax office, by the Finanzamt, right? So whether it is you getting a new heat pump, or you are changing to district heating, or you are optimizing the efficiency of the already existing heating system you have in your house, these are all subsidized in some shape or form. Either you get a subsidy of up to 30%, or you get up to 15% in some cases, plus 5%, some supplementary loan up to 120,000 euros per residential unit. So that'll all differ from case to case, right? So with our clients, what we have a closer look at is once you move in, because for almost all of these, you need to be the owner already. We can't apply for these loans on your behalf. But what we do as home loan consultants is we guide our clients on which kind of subsidies could you avail once you are the owner, right? We had a case yesterday in which, or today morning, in which a client wanted to buy a house and he needed to change the heating system. So we guided him through the process of what he needs to do, which kind of subsidies he can avail, but only, again, once if he's the owner of the house, right? Only then can you start these energy efficiency measures. Other measures would be current optimization or optimization of the current heating system, or if you're looking to insulate the walls, the outer facade, the roof, the basement, or create sun protection so that the heat stays within or doesn't leave the house in the first place. You'll get subsidies. You'll also get subsidies for installing smart homes in combination with smart ventilation, for example. There are supplementary loans available, subsidies available, either in most cases it's cashback or it's reduction of your loan. What do I mean with this? If you're, let's say, taking a 100K loan for this from KfW, you may get a subsidy which you don't need to pay back the full 100K, but only 90K, right? So it's not a cashback for you in your pocket, but it's reduction in loan, which means in most cases the interest is super low or even negative in this case, right? or you are actually going towards modernizing your house in a way, this is the last line, modernizing your house in a way that it is now an energy efficient house according to KfW standards. So it needs to reach KfW 85, 55, or 40. In those cases, you'll get promotional loans, which are very low in the interest rate from the interest rate perspective, and or even subsidies, which you don't need to fulfill or repay the full amount of the loan, right? And if those you can't get BAFA loans or the KfW subsidy, then you can at least get a 20% tax bonus up to a certain limit, up to a certain threshold from the income tax. So for almost every measure which there is to increase the energy efficiency, you will have some kind of scheme available either from BAFA, from KfW, or from the tax office. Last slide on this. You'll also have energy consultants, Energieberater, which are also subsidized. So if you are using an energy consultant, an Energieberater, which is certified with a governmental body called DENA, in that case, 80% of the cost will be borne by the subsidy. So you don't need to pay the full price of the energy consultant, but only 20%, right? Or you're installing photovoltaic solar panels on top of the roof, you will get subsidy as well. Or, for example, if you are creating a house or using funds to make the house more accessible, so a wheelchair accessible, for example, or you broaden your doors so that wheelchair can actually go in or fit in, or change the bathroom to make it accessible, those subsidies can also be availed. And I've taken 2 or 3 of them personally already. One was for the bathroom for one of my tenants, and the other one was was a subsidy for better doors, for a better front door against burglary, right? So it was a tougher door with a special security mechanisms, which is harder to break into. And that is subsidized as well. I think the door costs, I think 2,000 euros, and I got 800 euros or 500 euros, I don't recall anymore, back from the German government, from, in that case, KfW back in the day. So that's subsidized as well. So if you're already planning to modernize, if you're already planning to renovate some things in the regard of energy efficiency, accessibility, burglary, resistance, then please check in with us or with any other home loan consultant for that matter on which subsidies are available for you.
Okay, for sure, there are, as we saw, a lot of KfW programs. One additional one, which is very nice and often used actually, is the klimafreundlicher Neubau, so a very energy efficient new property, and it's eligible for all owners. Doesn't matter if it's self-use or rented property. And there you see there are 2 numbers. So the 297 is for self-use and the 298 is for rented properties, because under the line they are almost the same. The properties need to be energy efficient, energy efficiency 40 class. Here, so because every property which is new built has the KfW 55, this is the normal standard, and it needs to be energy efficiency 40 standard, so slightly better, but even better than the normal ones, and it needs to be a new one. And you get the subsidy through getting lower interest rates. Yeah, so it's a decreased one, and it's starting with 2.44. The amount is, let's say in most cases, it's 100,000 euros for a normal KfW 40 house, energy efficiency 40 house. And if it's a very sustainable property, you get a special certificate. It's a QNG certificate. Then you get an additional 50,000. So altogether, it can be up to 150,000 euros.
Okay, then as mentioned, the government wants us to live in energy efficient housing. So they have multiple programs already. We already discussed a couple of them. Now, Sebastian mentioned the 297, 298, which is applicable for anyone who is buying an energy efficient new house. But there's a better one available if you are eligible for it. You will be eligible for it if you are using it for your own and have a family which has at least one kid. The energy house is efficient as per the KfW standards, and the house is new, which means you are the first owner of the house. Only then would this be applicable. And there are some thresholds of taxable income, 90K onwards, 90,000 euros onwards, depending on the number of kids you have. So it's not as easy. And the taxable income is not counted from this year, but from the last year and last year, right? The subsidy, though, is worth it. Unlike one or two of the others, here we have a decreased interest rate with starting at 0.66% for a 10-year tenure of the loan, and the amount you can avail for that 0.66% is up to 270,000 euros, depending upon number of kids you have in the household, right? So this is not as commonly used because of the taxable income threshold, but if we have them and we can pull that in and you're eligible for it, it's a wonderful way to decrease the interest cost by far, right? So you'll have better EMI, better interest rates because of that 0.66% interest rate, which is available right now. And then you'll also have state-driven subsidies. I just took a screenshot of 2 of the 16 states we have here in Germany, Buymeacoffee and NRW Bank. And writing down those subsidies would take a full web page, half a book. The reason for that is that these subsidies are different from state to state. They have different thresholds for income levels. They have different amounts which are subsidized, but most of them have a decreased interest rate, right? So you can avail a certain amount, let's say 100K or 120,000 euros from that specific state bank, NRW Bank, Buymeacoffee, LB Bank in Baden-Württemberg, and there are 15 others. They will have different amounts, 60, 80, 100, 120K, depending on most of them, depending upon your income, your taxable income. Some are tying this to whether you have kids. Some are tying the subsidy to how many kids you have. Some are tying it to whether it's your first purchase, Buymeacoffee, for example. So it's different from state to state. It'll depend on where the property is, not where you live, but where the property is going to be bought, right? Where the plot is. The reason why almost no one is taking those subsidies is because of these banks being very, very slow. Very, very slow means they have a sign-off period of 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And the timelines most often do not match with your bank where you're taking the loan from, right? We had a client 2 weeks back who approached us and says, I already have a signed off loan from Buymeacoffee. Now I want to avail the housing loan. And I already have my home bank, which provided that, but the timings didn't match. Buymeacoffee said we need the sign off till 15th. And the bank says, well, till 15th, we are not holding on our offer. We'll not have our offer valid after that, right? So there's going to be can you hear me, Sebastian?
I don't know. Sometimes it's stuck. I don't know if it's on my end because I read that it's with someone else as well, but
all good.
All right.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right. So it's different from state to state, different thresholds, but they take a very, very long time to sign off. Hence, most of the clients don't opt for this, although it's a sad part, but in most cases, the timelines don't match either with the bank, which is providing the other part of the loan, or with the seller. So if a seller can't wait for more than 2 months or 1 month, then he might switch the buyer, which is most cases the case, right? So although they are available, most of our clients don't opt for it because of the duration of the sign-off of these particular subsidized banks, right? And so worthwhile to look at them first, see if your home loan consultant can pull them in. Some are automated, some are not. So please check in with your home loan consultant or your bank, for that matter, on whether it makes sense to apply for them from a financial standpoint. And you would need to check with the broker or the seller himself on whether he's okay to wait that time during the sign-off period.
Okay, so where do we support? There are the 8 magic steps, let's say, you need to walk through till you can purchase the property. So where you're looking for, we help with the financial commitment, we help with searching, finalizing, going through the notary appointment, get the funds, pay the seller. But you see, it's not in the circle, it's not completely fulfilled, and in some cases, especially on the payback of the loan, that part needs to be done from your end. We can't head there. And yeah, how can you meet up with us? For sure, you can meet us in our new office in Leverkusen, face-to-face. In most cases, we meet via video call. Because we are working in whole Germany. Yeah, we support from Aachen to Zittau, from Flensburg to Bodensee. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you want to have a mortgage to buy a property. We support in whole Germany. And yeah, for sure, we also have a wonderful WhatsApp group, and you can ping us by WhatsApp as well.
Right, so just to summarize, there are a lot of subsidies available. There are subsidies available for own users. There are subsidies available for investors. Most of them are driven towards energy efficiency because the German government wants us to invest into energy efficient buildings, but they also want to make us live in our own homes. Not all subsidies will be applicable for all clients, and not all subsidies would make sense for all clients, right? So if you had, I don't know, 20% own equity and you can buy a flat and the interest rates from the bank itself is so low that we don't need to pull in a subsidy, that's what we don't do then, right? So it'll depend on a case-by-case basis on whether a certain subsidy makes sense for you or not, right? We'll discuss that, or your home loan consultant will discuss that with you if he's good, and you say, look, we didn't consider X, Y, Z because of these 2 reasons. State subsidies are worth looking at, but they take longer, and most sellers cannot wait that sign-off period, right? But if you have a patient seller who is, I don't know, living in Florida, that's an example of last week, who's living in Florida, says, look, I don't care how long it takes, I just want the money, and I want it by, I don't know, June, July. And our buyer, our client, can then apply for the loan at Labo in that case, and buy on Labo. Perfect, right? Then it's a good deal for any client. And please check in with your home loan consultant. If you trust him, then please also ask him on the subsidies available, on which subsidies he's considering, on which he's not considering, and perhaps why not. Challenge him a bit and see whether he might forget one or the other subsidy, or which he might not be aware of because he's not doing that on a daily basis. That typically is the case with some in the market as well. All right, now a very short summary of the 5 most important, 5 most used subsidies in Germany while buying a house. We'll now draw our attention to the questions we have in the chat.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.